Miles, where are you at?
What's up in Phoenix? It's almost swimming season here, man.
Oh, really?
Yep, it's getting hot. Triple figures now.
It's about that time. Must be June. Must be NBA Finals time. Game 4 last night. Toronto goes up 3-1.
Up 3-1. Not what I predicted, but honestly, after watching, I guess I wasn't surprised. They haven't really looked like they've had any kind of sense of urgency at all from
Who?
the Warriors.
Warriors.
From pretty much anywhere.
So game 4, Warriors go off to a kind of a hot start. Toronto catches back up in the second quarter to kind of tie it, getting close going into halftime. Then Toronto really goes and pulls away in the third.
Uncharacteristic of playing the Warriors.
Right. This Warriors team had Klay Thompson coming back from his hamstring injury. He scored 28 points, shot well from the floor. I think he was like 11 of 18, something like that. Or was that Curry? Yeah. Either way, great game by Thompson. Miles, this is the team that won 73 games before Kevin Durant. This is the team that almost beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 2 times in a row. The narrative before this finals was they don't need Kevin Durant and they're fine. Where are they at right now?
Well,
because there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can either think of Game 4 as a Lakers 2002 kind of demise where a dynasty's broken up, Miami Heat in 2015, 2016 or whatever. Or we can look at it as Toronto is just a crazy good team with a bunch of veterans who are clicking at the right time and jumping on a vulnerable team with matchup problems across the board.
The Warriors are definitely a vulnerable team, but I've kind of been saying it since they won 67 games back in 2014-15 season, that they were sort of, I don't want to say an overrated team because that's not a good word to use with a team that's won 3 out of 4, but they are a very beatable team. Very beatable. And they have been for a really long time. And the fact that right now they're dealing with injuries is sort of, I think, the perfect end to the Golden State Warriors domination. Because nobody has benefited more from injuries in the playoffs than the Golden State Warriors.
We'll talk big picture. We can talk big picture soon. Let's talk about just the Game 4, what we saw.
Okay, so do they need Kevin Durant was the original question.
Right. I'm sorry. I led you wrong.
I would say against the Raptors, yes. I think getting Kevin Durant would switch the series back. I don't think it would switch it back far enough for them to come back from a 3-1 deficit, though, especially going back to Toronto tonight. And I was wrong on the playoff format. They switched it back. I didn't realize that.
Right. And that's fine. Yeah. I mean, it's tough, right? From the game, I thought, just from a competitive atmosphere, you could tell both teams are giving themselves everything they could. Nick Nurse is doing a great job. I can't remember who said it, but somebody, some media personality was mentioning that in the beginning, the first half, the Toronto Raptors were really running a lot so that they could, use up all of Golden State's energy, tire them out for the second half. And I think it kind of worked. It doesn't feel like the same Golden State Warriors, like when they go on their huge runs, it doesn't feel like such a huge Mike Tyson blow to the face kind of thing,
Yeah, and Klay Thompson hit some big shots late.
True.
He seemed to be the only one that was really consistently scoring for them, which is kind of weird after Steph Curry comes off 47.
But it's a case of like you're saying, it's like an individual offensive player versus a really good team defense. Especially when you have Serge Ibaka out there at center instead of Marc Gasol, you can pretty much switch 1 through 5. makes it really hard.
And Ibaka's been changing. Yeah, he's been changing stuff in the paint for sure. He's been disrupting their penetration game big time.
Kawhi really hasn't had to, I didn't really feel like in game 4, I guess what I'm trying to say is in the Milwaukee series, you really felt that he was the dominant player in the series when he would go at it with Giannis back and forth, possession after possession. And I think if Kevin Durant was back, and he wasn't 100% healthy, I think you're risking giving Kawhi that opportunity to just attack and to smell blood in the water and just make sure he knows or that he puts his stamp on the game. And I think he hasn't really had to pull that out yet. But if Kevin Durant comes back, I don't think it's such a walk in the park at this point.
I agree with that 100%. The series definitely changes, but it's not necessarily in full, like 100% benefit to the Warriors.
Well, now we'll see what the Warriors is.
Game changes.
Well, it's now a case where you have a dog backed up against a corner, right? The Warriors are on the brink of elimination, and when you back up a dog against the corner, it's either going to cower or it's going to fight back and bite at whatever. And we'll see what kind of fight this Warriors team has, especially the last year of this, run, especially in such a critical time, free agent wise. And you combine that with the fact that that might be the last game ever at Oracle, and really a great Toronto Raptors turnout. The Warrior fans leave before the game's over, and right behind the Toronto bench, you have this husband and wife in LA gear, LeBron James 23, just cheering for every Toronto Raptors bucket. What is going on in Oakland?
That's a good question, actually, because I felt like in the first half of the game, actually, I think I commented on it when I was watching it with my brother. I said, I think that's the loudest I've heard Oakland fans or Golden State fans since 2014. 2015, like when they were fired up and they had all the motivation in the world, and they were where Toronto is now, trying to break a 40-year drought of, I mean, I guess Toronto's not 40 years, but you know what I mean. I think the Warriors fans have been spoiled, and they were awake in the first half, and the Warriors did really well. And then things started to fall apart, and the Warriors fans were like, well, screw this. I can't believe they left early. That could have been the last game at Oracle Arena, and they walked out 3 minutes before the game ended.
And the starters were in. I'm sorry, but Stephen Curry was playing with a minute left against Kyle Lowry.
It's not inconceivable to think that Klay Thompson and Steph Curry can make a 12-point lead disappear in 3 minutes.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I can't, I was trying to think of who is the most likely player since Wilt to reach 100. It's got to be Curry. You hit 20 threes, 25 threes. There's never been 3 is more than 2. And if you know anything about numbers and math, if you scale 3, it's easier than scaling 2. He could be the best player ever, and he may not. He's got a little flu bug, but for him, specifically for Curry, because if the league is going to go into this 3-point revolution and go all metrics and stuff, and he's the best player ever at every single 3-point metric, at what point is he in the conversation for best player of all time? So what does that look like for him going forward? I mean, I think it was pretty evident in the post-game interviews. They said Klay Thompson and Curry both were like, hey, you don't know when you're going to get back here again. And I think they both realize that is this the last time the Warriors make the finals? It might be. It could be. I'm not saying it's going to.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the summer that they have. The Warriors, since Klay Thompson got his All-NBA snub, they can now afford him. Kevin Durant is leaving. That's I mean, all but signed on paper. And Steph Curry's coming back. I think he'll be a franchise player there forever. Draymond, I think, is going to be with whoever has the best chance at winning a championship. And if he has his choice, he's going to stay with the Warriors. I think Iguodala's kind of the
It's
same way.
championship combined with money for Draymond. I think if they don't offer him the max, I think he starts looking.
Really? That'd be a little bit disappointing.
He hired Rich Paul in Clutch Sports. Clutch Sports gets money out of their clients.
I think Draymond's worth it at the end of the day, though.
Especially when he's not drinking vodka and eating.
That's true. So I think that the Warriors core is still going to be there in the summer. I think they definitely need to add a piece. Whether they keep DeMarcus Cousins, I don't even know. I'm not sure if that's a positive thing for them anymore. I think DeMarcus Cousins was most valuable when Kevin Durant was playing because Kevin Durant slowed the game down and made it that isolation game and allowed DeMarcus Cousins to set up weak side. And if Kevin Durant missed, I think 75% of the time it went weak side.
Interesting.
And DeMarcus Cousins was able to have pretty incredible rebounding efficiency when Kevin Durant was on the floor. He's not nearly as efficient when they're playing this run and gun style. I think he's still valuable because he's played really well. I think he's trying to show that he still has value. And he's trying to do it in a very short period of time, coming off of an injury in the NBA Finals, which is probably the hardest task that you can put on somebody.
So let's look ahead in the series a little bit. What are the chances that Golden State comes back? What are the chances that your Raptors in 6 prediction that you made on this series, whatever, right? Didn't you say Raptors in 6?
I said 7, I think.
7. I think I said Warriors in 7. What will it take for the Raptors to close it out? What will it take for the Warriors to come back for Game 7?
I really do think that it will go back to Oracle Arena. I think the Warriors have enough experience here to know that they're not
to
out
panic.
Of this. Yeah, they're not out of this thing. The Raptors need to keep doing exactly what they're doing until it stops working. I think Pascal Siakam needs to be even more aggressive than he's been because they keep on getting that isolation matchup with him and Andrew Bogut. And Bogut's just sagging off, standing nearly underneath the rim. Siakam needs to be able to hit a 15-foot jump shot and get him out of the paint and then take him off the dribble.
How about the Fred VanVleet potential injury? I mean, elbows like that to the face can fracture your face. And if you have any type of facial contusion or injury, it can mess up your vision. It can mess up your concentration. It can mess up your sleep cycle. If you're Fred VanVleet, he's playing excellent defense on Curry, and he's arguably a huge piece for them. Do you think that's enough of a swing with the addition with Kevin Durant?
It could be. With Kevin Durant, absolutely it is. I think Warriors are anxious to prove everybody wrong on the Kevin Durant front. So if Kevin Durant comes back Game 5 or 6, I think they'll be pumped enough to be able to swing the series. And I think it'll make it more believable to themselves. Bringing Kevin Durant back, that's all the answers we need.
How valuable was that Game 2 win for Golden State?
Oh, man. That was big time. And I'm honestly surprised that they let 2 games go at home.
Really?
I mean, I honestly don't know how that happens. They're one of the best home teams in the league.
I mean, Kawhi was able to get to every spot that he wanted. Pull up elbow jumper in the post.
Defensively, they really haven't slowed them down that much.
No, if anything, I feel like Toronto is the defensive juggernaut in this one.
Yeah, they keep on trapping Kawhi, which is not the answer. Absolutely not the answer. Because Danny Green has been nailing corner threes late in the game, and that was because Steph Curry came off and trapped Kawhi Leonard. like not even a stunt, like full commitment, 100%. They've done the same thing, bringing. I'm trying to think of the matchup. It would have been Draymond Green and Iguodala, I think, which is your two top defenders, at least perimeter defenders. And then they're getting the ball to Marc Gasol in the center. He's able to shoot the ball. He hasn't been shooting it particularly well in these last few games, but that was the difference in game one. Was Gasol was hitting shots, and that got everybody else kind of going as well. Like Fred VanVleet, it was one more swing over to Fred VanVleet from Gasol. And the ball movement in game four from Toronto was way better. So much better. And I think they're kind of figuring it out game by game, where it doesn't seem like the Warriors are really trying that hard to figure out the Raptors. You know what I mean?
Right. I've always wanted to ask you this. I've always wanted to ask you. It seems like with the Raptors, it comes down a lot to the role players really stepping up, in particular, Siakam. Who does he remind you of? Is he like a Tayshaun Prince? Who is he?
He moves a lot like Tayshaun Prince, actually. Like a bigger version of him.
Because what does he do well that really impacts the floor and really complements Kawhi? Because what I'm really trying to ask is, where do the Toronto Raptors go from here? If Kawhi stays and if Kawhi leaves, is Siakam something you can build around? If not, is there another free agent out there that perhaps would entertain the idea of linking up with him? Maybe what kind of and if so, what kind of player would really complement his game like Kawhi's? Because it's really interesting to see the team building dynamic of these playoffs. You know, the Blazers are backcourt centric, and the Warriors were able to neutralize that just because, hey, guess what? They're also a backcourt centric team too. But the Raptors have huge wings players. They're like the Bucks. It's weird how those teams met in the conference finals, how those two styles clashed with each other. You know, you have huge teams who can switch everything, positionless basketball built around one superstar, and you have Chris Middleton versus Siakam, and Siakam was the you know, had the better edge. But if Kawhi leaves, you still have a great Eastern Conference team, and he's only 23 years old. If it comes down to the jump shots, nobody expected him to get to this point. What if he gets that last jump shot? Is he a Kawhi Leonard? Who is he? What are we looking at?
I think he's more like Antetokounmpo, and I don't want to make that comparison like ironclad, but I think that's more the style of play that he has, where he wants to be in the fast break, and he wants to be trying to create and slash off the dribble. He's got sort of a similar problem as Antetokounmpo, where I'm finding like late in the playoffs, he's actually not that skilled as far as like his ability to really create.
And that's where Kawhi comes in, and he does, like, he can create that space. He can get a jump shot and play that isolation game when Siakam can't do that kind of stuff.
Right, and that's the biggest difference between a player.
And then the Warriors just don't have that
control of the game. Yeah, exactly. It's a difference between somebody who's able to take control of a game. So when something's not working, that's okay. I've got another weapon. And if you can't shoot the ball, even from a mid-range setting, which he did really well in game one, he was 14 of 17 from the floor. I think he was 2 of 3 from three-point range because he's not afraid to shoot the three ball.
Right.
But since game one, we haven't really seen him be able to hit those. If you pull up like shot charts and things, it's X's all the way around, and then his only scoring opportunities are coming within 5 to 6 feet from the basket. And he's got a good-looking like little baby hook over his left shoulder.
Right.
But that's really his only move.
Well, and you see guys who are physically dominant, and the first guy that comes to my mind is LeBron James. And LeBron can beat you in 50 different ways. But if his jump shot wasn't falling, which was the case a lot earlier in his career, he really knew how to play make for others, and that was a killer up until he had to close games by himself in the fourth quarter, which he was criticized for a lot early in his career because he couldn't do that. But I don't see Siakam being able to play make. I mean, you can't compare him to LeBron James in that sense, but it was just another weapon that LeBron had that made the rest of his game so much easier. Post game, his drive. especially I'm talking about when his shot wasn't falling, and that's kind of hypothetically how we're talking about Siakam right now.
And I would be worried a little bit about Siakam's IQ. It seems like he's a second late on certain things. Like when Kawhi drives and he's looking to get Siakam into the opportunities. So Siakam would be sitting short corner. Kawhi attracts the entire defense of the Warriors, and then he makes a little dump pass to the short corner. It looks like Siakam is a second late on those kind of things, where he doesn't exactly see the opportunity that he has right in front of him. I think the same thing when he gets the ball in the post is that he's not really looking for other teammates. I don't think he realizes the impact that he's having in drawing a double team and really looking for players that are slashing.
Because a lot of the time when he gets in the post like that, it's a mismatch. He's on Curry or he's on, Quinn Cook.
Yeah, and I just saw Marvin Bagley. He was working out in Phoenix, and he's got the same problem, where he's an unbelievably athletic. He's huge, long. He's actually very skilled. He can shoot the ball, but his IQ is not that good. And you see him falling apart defensively. I think Siakam's better defensively, but you'll see Marvin Bagley especially. He'll leak way weak side and leave the paint wide open. Or he'll get the ball in the post, draw a double team, and miss players that are slashing down the center of the floor wide open. And at 6'10" and his length, he's able to make those passes. He just doesn't quite see the opportunities. And I think Siakam kind of has the same problem. But he's so young, I think they can still really develop him.
Right. I think Siakam benefited from OG Anunoby's injury in the same way that D'Angelo Russell benefited from Karis LeVert's injury for the Nets. You guys, there may be a position clog, and maybe all of those extra minutes, you get half of those minutes, and maybe that's the kind of development that you need going forward. And maybe we could see that kind of development in Jaylen Brown next year. If things go south in Boston and he gets back to taking a lot more shots per game.
Well, I think there's a lot to that as well. Like people benefiting from injuries. I think Lou Williams is one. I think Terry Rozier was another one. And it's interesting that you bring up OG because people don't seem to be talking about the fact that the Raptors are missing him.
Right. He was the guy that was guarding LeBron in the conference finals when DeMar was too shook and he couldn't do it.
And he had a killer postseason. I mean, I remember saying after that series that OG was almost the future of the Raptors. Like he was the piece that was going to be able to take DeRozan and Lowry to a championship if it was going to happen. That was before I saw the Kawhi and DeRozan thing, obviously, but he's still, I think, a really valuable piece for them. And he fits.
And that's why I say going forward
with that game style.
They have a good young nucleus going forward with or without Kawhi.
How do you feel about the attraction of Toronto as a basketball city?
Well, I don't know. I think we could go international, and I kind of wanted to hit this too. It's like, what does it mean for the NBA if they get an international champion, especially where they're trying to kind of align more on the soccer model? I think they're trying to get a midseason tournament. Adam Silver's talked about that. They're trying to develop a better farm system for American players because they realize that a lot of their high school basketball has such a huge market and demand now. You think of the AAU, you think of Instagram, House of Highlights, and all these kids are going over and playing overseas, or even the AAU. It's just crazy. But having an international champion, they already announced. I think I texted you that the NBA wants to do games in Mexico City next year, featuring Phoenix Suns and international star Luka Doncic. And what if we have back-to-back MVPs with Giannis being this year? Maybe Luka wins it next year. Who knows? Dallas may be in playoff top 4 contention. Maybe they're the new Denver Nuggets. I mean, it's hard to project these kinds of things, especially when we don't really know what kind of basketball might be played next year. But back to like the international thing, it's like, okay, well, if we have one really popular franchise in Toronto, if we have another one in Mexico City, if we have one in London, if we have one in Beijing, if we have one in Egypt, what will the NBA look like in 30 years if we have different regions of the world? And what if the NBA championship is just the world championship?
I think they should start to work toward that. Right now, the NBA, at least American basketball, is its
let's just
own
stick to
thing.
American basketball, the American farm system. Then we can go international and how that may, because it's like these programs like IMG. What if the Los Angeles Lakers just said, you know what, we're just going to buy IMG, and it's going to be, instead of IMG, it's the Lakers Youth.
Now that's interesting.
And they're responsible for educating them and getting them into, an appropriate college if they so choose not to pursue this, but they're focusing 100% on basketball, and they give up their likeness to the Lakers, much like they give up to college basketball, but they get paid. Then you can have this, you can kind of adopt the soccer model of like an under 20 tournament. Say you have an under 23 all-star selection, and, I don't know.
No, I'm following you completely. I love that idea, actually. So Americans invented basketball.
Right.
This was the league and the system that they set up. The rest of the world looked at it and went, okay, we love basketball. Anyone can play that sport. It doesn't take, it wasn't like football, right?
We can kind of project these guys at 13, 14, who's going to be really the real deal.
Yeah. But the way that they set up their leagues overseas was exactly like you said, like a soccer model. So they have a pyramid system where they have tier 1, tier 2, and depending on which country it is, Germany and Spain, they have like all the way down to like 8 tiers, which I think is not considered pro. But anyway, they have at the top tier level, like you were saying, they have clubs. And those clubs have essentially these academies that bring in kids and work them into the club from the time they're like 10 years old all the way up through the professional level. So the idea of taking like an IMG academy, which would make more sense if it was like Miami, right? That's IMG's in Florida,
Vegas.
right?
Oh no, you're right. They're in Florida.
Findlay is Vegas.
Yeah, and Bishop Gorman.
Yeah, that's right. So IMG Academy, let's say like Miami, decides, yeah, we're going to take IMG Academy, or Orlando. I don't know where they're actually located in Florida. But I like the idea of them taking that and sort of making the connection between high school all the way to the pros. That's a connection that we really have not had because the NCAA is directly in the center of that.
Right.
The NCAA is the divide.
The rule that's really, getting that. And I think if you were to build something, it's the rule where you have to be one and done, right? But if you could somehow build a brand and make money in a different way, maybe that would work. Because, I'm watching these highlights, these high school highlights. I'm watching Melo play for Spire Academy. Oh my gosh. These kids are already playing for prep leagues, they're already playing for kind of semi-professional teams. And with online rights and with, the availability of the media, what if there was a way to get players money before they turned 18 and then they're eligible for a huge contract if they stay with the club that picks them when they're 13 or 14?
And there should be. Luka Doncic was playing professionally when he was 15 years old for FC Barcelona, or BC Barcelona basketball club. I think that should be an acceptable thing, an acceptable path. If somebody's gifted,
it gets the shoe companies out of the industry as well.
I think if the G League wants to take on a 15-year-old kid and say, I think he's gifted enough, he shows this kind of promise, I absolutely think that should be okay.
The
I also
problem
think
is
there should
the
be a
age
pathway.
in the G League, right? Right now, it's it's a way for guys who are on the fringe NBA players to get back into the league instead of like a appealing decision for LaMelo. Like he's the perfect guy, and we'll transition to the Lakers and Lavar and the Balls. But like, man, if I'm the Lakers, why not just offer LaMelo $100,000 contract to play for the South Bay Lakers? He is like a guy like a Zion Williamson that could pack a gym and get you 100,000 streams live and a million replay. I mean, that's an advertiser's dream, and
Yeah,
he could be the face of the G League. But right now, it's 28-year-old men who should be in the league. It's
and I
like
think they're trying to change that with the elite contracts that they have worth 125,000 now. I think is that starting
right.
next year?
I think it's starting this year. Well, I guess look at Anthony Simons, right? He went down to the G League from a lot of this last year. Blazers first round pick of last year. He was like a young 19-year-old player drafted out of prep school because he took his year of I guess he reclassified when he was in high school, but
That's like
he
that's a perfect example actually. Is Simmons.
right. And you know, I don't know cuz I see LaMelo might be going to the New Zealand Breakers or something with RJ Hampton. They could be
Right.
teaming up. He also could go to China, which is kind of ironic and kind of like a big FU to his brother.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, we're under new management with this Lakers staff. Maybe Lonzo and Lavar have a little bit more pull, and they can get both Ball brothers on the G League team. Maybe I know Lavar really wants him on the actual Lakers, but Lavar on his interviews tour was talking about the Ball brothers, and he said how LiAngelo is having ankle surgery, and so that's why he's going to declare for the NBA draft next year with LaMelo, and they're going to come out as kind of like a two-person tandem.
This will be his
So
second time declaring for the draft, right?
Right. But so he declared last year, and then so he's going to declare again this next year.
Because you can technically only declare twice.
Right. So I don't think he can declare this year. I don't think he's going to.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just very interesting because no matter what, LaMelo has proven that he went to Lithuania. He was off the ESPN top ranked prospects. He comes back to America, and now he's right back in the top 10. And he's 6'8". Lavar says he's going to be a smooth 6'10".
6'8".
We could be looking at Lonzo with a jump shot and handles. I mean,
He's a legit 6'5".
you think so? I think he's taller than Lonzo, and I think Lonzo's 6'6".
I'd love to get his official measurements. Actually, I think that would be interesting because he looks lengthy. I wouldn't be surprised to see like a 6'10" wingspan. I think he needs a bigger body. Like Lonzo has put on some mass. Like he looks stronger.
That also comes with being 20.
Well, yeah, sure. And I think having obviously a professional training staff around you all the time.
Right. Which LaMelo probably does at this point. I mean, he's not doesn't go to school anymore.
Yeah. It's probably not the Lakers, but I think I don't want to see LaMelo like I don't wish bad things for him. I really do hope the Ball brothers all end up with really successful careers. The reality that I see with LaMelo is he cannot play defense. Not only that, but it does not look like he wants to. I think that's the biggest difference between him and Lonzo. I think LaMelo's a better shooter. Always has been. But not quite the same. Well, he's a pretty good ball handler too, actually. A good finisher. I just don't think that he shows the same two-way potential that Lonzo does.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of like what I was saying about LeBron and how he can play make. It's kind of, if you can do one or two things at a really, really, really high level, it can kind of offset the things that you don't do. And with Lonzo, he's a really elite defender at his point guard position, and he's a really great playmaker. So it's like both of those things kind of give him a leeway to be not as good at other areas and not be considered a bust, in his first couple of years in the league. It'll be interesting to see what kind of contract extension he gets. And I think this next year coming up, if we want to kind of look ahead, I mean, Stephen A. Smith slipped this in on Friday. He said he thinks LeBron's going to have an MVP kind of year next year. I mean, you look at all the dysfunction and the turmoil they went through. I think they get one free agent. Let's just say they improve their team by one, B level. That's just being conservative. B level talent. You add that in with a healthy LeBron James, healthy, motivated LeBron James, and with a young nucleus who, don't get me wrong, I don't think the narrative that they're all bitter about what happened last year will still be. It's a new season. Magic Johnson's gone. LeBron is still their idol. I think they can rally and make a push. Am I crazy?
I don't think so. No, I think what we were hoping for last year was kind of everybody being really impatient with the Lakers and kind of dreaming because of what LeBron did with the Cavaliers the year before. Like, we saw how spectacular and unstoppable LeBron was through the entire...
Almost took game one of the finals, if not for JR.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I think LeBron was exhausted from that entire season. It was the first season that he played 82 games. He was averaging 35 minutes a game or something like that through all 82 games, and
No
then
Kyrie.
played... Right. I mean, he was taking the entire load on himself. And through a couple of 7-game series, he was playing something like 43 minutes a game, and all the way into the NBA Finals, where he was still posting crazy triple-double numbers, like 40, 15, and 12. He nearly did it.
And it's not like he really fell off all that much this last year. He got hurt, yes, but he was still averaging 27 points a game.
Yeah, 27,
Easily.
8.5, and 9 or something like that. Yeah. His
And
stats were
dogging it.
all still there. We know he's still capable of being that same LeBron James. What they need is his mental, like that mentality back. He did not have it the entire year. I think he thought that he would get it back after the All-Star break, but there were so many distractions with the Anthony Davis thing. All of the younger guys thinking they were going to get traded.
And then the schedule on top of that, of everything else.
Yeah, it was just a weird season for the Lakers, I think. So I don't think it's crazy to see LeBron coming back and having an MVP type season. I don't think that's insane.
Because it can't get worse, right?
It really can't. And I think those young guys, like you said, like that's still their idol. These guys are young enough and still kind of inexperienced enough in the NBA to be like,
they're experienced now.
We're not going to turn on LeBron James, though.
Right.
I mean, how dumb would that be? So I think that the Lakers will still be fine, even if they keep the core that they have. If they don't get another free agent,
and they don't trade for Anthony Davis, obviously.
Yes, I don't know what the possibility of that is. Even still, I don't think New Orleans would even negotiate with him. To be 100% honest, I think it's off the table.
Well, I mean, David Griffin wouldn't have taken that job if he didn't have complete autonomy. And if Boston's out, the leverage is back with Anthony Davis because he has 1 year left on his contract. If you trade him after if you wait until February, you're not going to get anything for him because he's just going to leave anyway. So it's back to that Jimmy Butler. I mean, if Jimmy Butler had enough leverage to get his way out of Minnesota, I think Anthony Davis could narrow his choices down to a couple different teams. Problem is, if you're looking at places he would go, New York, LA, Dallas, maybe.
He wants a big market. And he's not going to Dallas because Porzingis is there. I don't think that would work out. Porzingis, he's more like a stretch four than a center. I could see it working, but I don't see those personalities for some reason working out. I don't see Dallas working out.
I mean,
he definitely wants a big market, though.
What if they trade him to Atlanta for Herder, a couple picks? I mean, Atlanta's got 8 and 10. I mean, obviously, you know, Trae Young's off the table, but maybe not. Maybe you ask.
A Trae Young, Anthony Davis trade is interesting. If New Orleans can pick up Trae Young and combine him with Zion Williamson and start the rebuild there, I don't hate that prospect either. I think the best option for Anthony Davis, and honestly for the league, is for him to stay in New Orleans for one more year.
That's not going to happen.
He's got to try to make it work.
Him
and
actually,
Zion
it
Williamson
may happen if he's still on the. If nothing happens by the draft, I mean, you got to assume that he's going to go to training camp at least, right?
You'd hope so. I mean, he's already training and things, but I don't know. Just like the idea that Zion is a player that the NBA has honestly never quite seen. Not that same combination that he's bringing to the table.
I mean, he and Trae Young would just be like an analytical. It'd be like a video game cheat almost with them.
Yeah,
just the way
like
that you can get high efficient dunks, high efficient free throws, and high efficient threes. All of those would just be just off the charts with them too. Trae Young, especially. I mean, he's going to be the next Steph Curry. I mean, if you can't see it by now.
And that's the thing. He's going to be, I don't want to say Steph Curry, but he is definitely that next stage in the NBA where that's his role. He's sort of perfected he grew up watching Steph Curry, so he's bringing that new age kind of twist to Steph Curry, which is interesting.
But he's a Steph Curry point guard. I mean, if Steph Curry at Davidson was coming off a bunch of screens left and right, running around the floor the whole time, this guy can do it off the dribble and find guys.
That's true. Yeah, he's Steph Curry with
Steve Nash.
He's used to James Harden's usage rate, which is interesting.
So
he was like 40% usage rate at Oklahoma.
So if you were to put in Luka Doncic and Trae Young into this draft, where would you rank them?
I'd probably take Luka at 1. I guess it depends on what you really. It depends on what your team needs are, I guess.
I mean,
if you need a point guard, if you're the Phoenix Suns,
New Orleans pretty much has nothing. If you trade Anthony Davis, you have Drew Holiday, who you trade anyway. They have nothing. They have no young pieces. I mean, it's stylistic preference at that point. Or who do you think is the biggest chance at being that next level superstar? LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard,
Zion. Or is it just the comparison between Luka and Trae?
I don't know. Who do you? I mean, those are all
Zion,
3 transcendent future face of the NBA prospects.
I think Luka is going to be under the radar as far as like how dominant he is. I think kind of like Dirk was. Like, I don't know if Dirk even still gets credit for how dominant he really was. He gave people buckets. I think Luka's kind of going to be the same way, but in an understated way.
And it's hard to envision what their teams are going to look like, projecting so far ahead, especially Atlanta too, right? I mean, a lot of it's with the pieces you put around them. If Iguodala and Sean Livingston aren't.
How fast the NBA is changing, that's the thing too.
I mean, and that's why you may think that, Young may be one of the best out of those 3 guys, but Luka can also get a shot off anytime as well. So I was watching a RJ Barrett interview with Rachel Nichols, and man, he just looks like a Tracy McGrady kind of guy to me. I just think that one year at Duke, we just saw like a really, really young guy kind of in awe of what his best friend Zion could do at times. And you give him his own franchise. Hell, even if you trade him to the Pelicans and he plays together, you're going to see a completely different guy.
And I think he's really designed for the NBA game. The court is bigger.
The NBA lifestyle, the game,
everything.
Sorry, what?
The court itself is going to be bigger than college. The games are going to be longer, which means they're going to need more. It's not just going to be like a a two-man game. You know what I mean? With RJ and Zion, where college, the court feels smaller, and it's a 40-minute game. The rotations are going to be different. And they were also playing with Cam Reddish. The goal for Duke was so much different than the goal is going to be on an NBA team, right? Because obviously they're trying to win an NCAA championship, but they're also trying to get exposure for guys like Zion, RJ, and Cam Reddish. And then also you got guys like Tyus Jones. So I think RJ kind of like having that pressure if he gets on an NBA, I mean, if wherever he gets on an NBA team, I think having that kind of freedom a little bit is going to jumpstart his career. And I
Yeah.
think he's going to adjust to the league faster than anybody else in the lottery. That's
Really?
kind of my prediction. I think he's way
So
more skilled than Zion. He can shoot the ball. He can
what do you think
also
he'll
drive
average?
and finish.
Say he gets
Um,
a high usage his first year. He does a lot of the playmaking for New York or for the Pelicans or wherever he ends up, for Toronto if they make a trade for him.
I can see him going like 18 a game if he gets
4 or 5
really,
assists.
yeah, solid usage rate. I think that's a realistic number, especially if they give him the green light. I think he could absolutely do that in today's NBA,
Well,
especially.
now you're talking kind of about a Luka kind of impact on a franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's way more athletic. He's quicker than Luka and able to create off the dribble. I think where he could really like separate himself is if he could develop kind of a post game. So make himself the ultimate, like the ultimate positionless basketball player where he can take the ball up the floor. We saw it at Duke where he can be a playmaker.
Right. He
I
can
don't
make
know if it's where he's strongest.
fast decisions that end up generally doing good things. Right. You see
Right.
Draymond, when he gets the ball in the break, he's making the decision to outlet, then run up, set the flare screen. You know, he's processing a lot of data, and you can see RJ having the same abilities.
Yeah. And if he can develop a post game similar to like a Gary Payton, where he was able to, Gary Payton was able to set up on what sort of like the low post wing, and he was able to take guys that way because at 6'4", he was bigger than a lot of the guards playing at the time. It was obviously a different type of guard that was playing in the NBA at that time. But he was stronger than everybody else. He knew it, and he was smart. He knew how to create from the post. He knew how to pass and find open teammates. RJ Barrett's even bigger, 6'7", and he's got that length. And if he can develop kind of that Kobe Bryant, Carmelo, Michael Jordan type of turnaround jumper, where he can hit a 15-foot fadeaway, and then also have that court awareness to be a playmaker from the post, I think it's also going to take his career. It's going to extend the longevity of his career. He'll be able to have a 20-year career.
I agree. And I think along those lines, I think bulking up and kind of getting a little bit bigger, kind of like a Lamar Odom, would help that, especially over the course of an 82-game season. So what realistic fit is his best option? Because it's probably looking like he'll go to the Knicks. But would he be better off in New Orleans, or would he be better off in Memphis with Jaren Jackson Jr.?
I like the fit in New York because I think New York is sort of at a stage where they're desperate for somebody to really take control as a player, where Kevin Knox really wasn't. They were hoping that he'd be that guy, but he wasn't. I don't think he will be. I think he'll be sort of a fringe all-star type of talent eventually, but it'll be sort of in a LaMarcus Aldridge kind of way where he's.
I see. I look at Kevin Knox and I see Jeff Green. I don't think he's really going to amount to much, and I don't think you can really. Frankie Smokes, he's really nothing. I mean, Porzingis was their best young hope, and Mitchell Robinson. I'm not sure, but I mean, it kind of just depends. So I had this thought about the New York Knicks the other day, and just the New York in general. Eli Manning worked, and he's kind of a bland persona for the New York Jets. Derek Jeter, kind of a under the radar personality, at least in the media public eye. You get a guy who's kind of more flamboyant, like a Cousins coming out of the draft, or like a Russell Westbrook who could kind of snap back at people. And maybe that's not the best fit in New York. Maybe the kind of player that you need in New York is kind of like a soft-spoken kind of guy who is really skilled, and you can't deny his skill. And he may not say much, kind of like a Kawhi. Maybe RJ Barrett's the best player that New York needed out of this draft. Maybe Zion wouldn't have been the best fit.
I think RJ is a healthy personality for the Knicks, especially at this time. He's definitely a competitor, and he's confident, and I think he's got enough of that sort of hype to fit in New York. I don't think that the Lakers are causing so much drama right now. I think it would be hard for the entire league to focus on New York unless it was Zion. I think RJ Barrett can fly far enough under the radar and still have incredible talent. I think it could be a really healthy situation, something that the Knicks have not had in a long time.
Any chance he falls to 4 at the Lakers? Any chance?
No. I mean, honestly, if I'm Memphis and he even falls to 3, I'm not even thinking about it. I mean, who'd New York take? Ja Morant, maybe?
You mean if RJ went 2? Or what do you mean?
So if Zion goes 1 and New York decides not to pick RJ Barrett, who do they take?
Well, New York has the 3rd pick, right? Memphis has the 2nd. So Memphis would take Ja.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Okay.
So also kind of what?
You got to go Ja Morant, right? If you're New York.
Yeah, at this point you have to. The only other player would be Darius Garland, and he's not even available for a while. So, I mean, I don't know.
I've been hearing a ton about lately is Jarrett Culver. I think he's going to the Lakers at number 4. He's proved that he can shoot the ball because he did a workout in LA. He also worked out in New York last weekend. And he shot something like there's a drill that NBA teams are running, and he ran it's called like the Jazz 100, Bronco 100. They call it all kinds of different things, but it's a 3-point shooting drill, and he shot like 70%. Like, he didn't miss.
Dang.
I think what it means is he's a streaky shooter because he shot 30% in college. Something like 43% from the field. But he was a great scorer, honestly. And I think he's like
guides Tech to a national championship.
Yeah.
Wasn't the most highly regarded recruit coming out. Had to work his tail off.
Phenomenal defensively, though.
Listened to his coach and came back for his sophomore year. Really showed a lot of signs of improvement. And, I saw a sit-down interview with him. He's just a great guy. I mean, apparently, from the interviews I've seen. But, I mean, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for skill mixed with, work ethic, what you can sell to your team and your fan bases, and what you can sell to your ownership, honestly.
And I think what he really wants is that big market. At least that's what he thinks he wants right now. Is he wants that LA or New York. I don't think New York is realistic. I think they're going RJ Barrett. I don't see him going a different direction. Mostly because I don't see Memphis going away from Ja Morant. And obviously I don't see New Orleans going away from Zion. I don't think that the Lakers will go away from Jarrett Culver either. everything I've been hearing and reading is that Jason Kidd loves Jarrett Culver.
Like, and that's what that really matters.
Yeah. I think the Lakers kind of like, after their workout, were like, okay, yeah, this is the guy we want. This is the guy that can fit in with the type of players that we have, which is an elite defender, somebody that they can at least teach to score, and somebody that they know is a capable shooter. He might not translate to the most consistent three-point shooter his first year out, but they know that he's capable of that.
Right.
And how it's really the defensive end.
How does he, work with the rest of that core, right? I mean, because you can go a lot of different ways with that. You could draft a point guard and shift Lonzo to the 2. But I liked what Lavar said in his interviews, saying, Lonzo needs to be the man. He needs to run the show. And I think you get one more wing around there in that Lakers, young core. It's really starting to develop. They really made a mistake by not following the Golden State model. The Golden State model is you have transcendent talent, and then you give them veterans to help them. And I don't think this core was molded and developed in the same way where any of those 3, Kuzma, Lonzo, or Ingram, I don't think they had a chance to develop into that transcendent superstar. So at this point, you're trying to kind of take shots and see what kind of guy can develop into a number 1. And maybe Jarrett Culver is a longer, taller Donovan Mitchell. And in which case, that's a 1.
Yeah, and the Lakers are really notorious since Kobe retired for not developing their younger talent. I mean, D'Angelo Russell was there, and he really didn't settle down and become an all-NBA type of talent until he left LA and ended up in Brooklyn. There's more examples, but I'm not thinking of them right away.
Julius Randle.
Yes. I think the same thing is happening with this core, and I hope they keep him. I really do. I think Lonzo is a good option at point guard. And
speaking of Lonzo, I've also heard, Lonzo for the 6th pick, Phoenix. Lonzo for the 7th pick, the Bulls. And that's kind of, if you're LA, the idea is that you get more incentives for the Anthony Davis trade. And if you're the Bulls or the Suns, you get your point guard of the future. And I think either one of those teams would probably be a pretty good option for him too, I think. You know what I mean? I mean, what does he look like if he's running the backcourt behind Phoenix?
I think that's a really good fit, actually, because he's like the biggest benefit to Lonzo is how long he is. Like a 6'5",
I disagree.
He can deflect a lot of passes.
That's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that when he gets on the court, he changes the pace, because the ball leaves his hands sometimes like a hot potato, not passively. I will give you that he was passive in the very start of his rookie year, but you can't tell me that now, after being kind of a couple seasons under his belt, he knows where the ball should go in order to get that fast break. And anytime you play the balls, you notice that the opponent score in the 120s, the 140s. If we're going to that kind of style and we need more possessions and more shots, he's the guy. And he does impact the game defensively, and that's something that helps him stay on the floor. But in transition, in the pace of the game over the course of an 82-game season, if you give him a young team, that's really what he needs to be the best player, I think.
I think he needs a lot of movement around him in order to make that true. Because if he has to put the ball on the floor, he really cannot push the pace like he needs to. So I would agree with that as far as his ability to rebound is fantastic.
And they're not empty rebounds like Westbrook, right? They're useful rebounds that end the defensive possession, right?
Right. Where he's in the middle of something.
Or he'll outlet it right after that.
Exactly. That's where, exactly where I was going. Was he knows where his teammates are. He knows where to look right away. And he'll also look up the floor before he puts it on the floor. Because he knows he can get the ball up the floor faster if he just baseball throws it. And he's an accurate passer. He's a very good passer. But if he's on a team that's not going to run, which seemed to
right?
kind of be the Lakers, at least
With
last
LeBron
year.
James.
Yeah. With LeBron on the floor, they were so slow.
Because now you're using him as
That
a spot-up shooter and as a slasher.
well, and him bringing the ball up the floor, he's not John Wall. And it's not like he's flying up the floor, making a quick move, and then getting to the rim.
Which
That's
is
not
what he
his
needs
game.
to do sometimes. Well, he needs to do that. He was a better finisher at UCLA.
Again, like his size, I hope he can post. I hope he kind of learns that post game. I think that's where the NBA, like the next step, needs to really be. We've taken the game to the outside where it's mandatory now for everybody to have a 3-point shot, including the big men coming into the league. Like we're analyzing big men based on, does he have a perimeter game? I mean, DeMarcus Cousins has a perimeter game. Marc Gasol has been a huge difference maker in the series because he can shoot the 3-ball. Brook Lopez, another one. I think that the reverse kind of needs to happen to the guards in this league where, I mean, like even Russell Westbrook, where he can't really shoot the 3-ball. It's crazy that he's not posting up. Or if he does post up, that he does not really know what to do with it. How are more people not working with Carmelo Anthony on this? Because that was his game, is that mid-range post. Kevin Durant is doing it, but he's doing it because he's 7 feet tall and he can shoot the ball. I mean, he's lights out. Literally
And how does that
unstoppable.
affect spacing?
That's the other thing, is I think that if they get movement going weak side and you get somebody like Lonzo Ball in the post who can make great passes, that's the thing. His IQ is there. Where I talked about Marvin Bagley not being able to find slashers. Lonzo Ball is looking for that. And he's willing to make that crazy pass between somebody's legs to get the ball to somebody. He's able at 6'5", whatever he is, legitimately 6'6", maybe 6'6", and his length, he's able to scan the floor and find shooters on the weak side.
Where's his best fit? Chicago, Phoenix, or LA? Keep in mind the Bulls have Wendell Carter, they have Lauri Markkanen, they have Chandler Hutchinson, a promising rookie from Boise State last year, who many said would be the next Kyle Kuzma. They have.
I honestly think of those three teams, I think Phoenix is the best option for him. I don't know
Warren,
how. Yeah,
Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton,
and they're
Josh
dying
Jackson.
for somebody. Yeah, they're dying for somebody to take control of the ball and be able to be a point guard because they don't want Devin Booker to do it, which is sort of a rare opportunity. Like they've gone an entire year without a point guard, and they did terrible.
Also with Phoenix, yeah, right. I know, right? That's like the Houston Texans going the whole draft and NFL free agency without addressing the offensive line at all, especially when you have Deshaun Watson being such a mobile quarterback and so injury prone as he is. But that's a different sport. With your Phoenix, I mean, do you really want to spend that 6th pick on another player, another young pick is another couple of years of development? You're not going to get a Damian Lillard in this draft at number 6. I'm sorry. You're not going to get a player at the 6th pick who's going to come in and average 20 points a game and 5 assists. You're just not. Unless Darius Garland falls, in which case, and you know, if you're right, and if the Lakers go with Culver at 4, and if the Cleveland Cavaliers say, you know what, we believe in Colin Sexton, that leaves Phoenix at 6, who could take Garland, and he could fill that role. If they say he's going to be that Kyrie, how would you feel about that?
I think it's still sort of a risk expecting that kind of thing out of Darius Garland. I would feel much safer taking Alonzo Ball. I think he's a better fit. And taking like a 3-and-D guy out of the draft.
How would you feel about paying Lonzo Ball? His extension is going to come up if you trade for him soon. You wouldn't expect to give up the 6th pick if you're going to get rid of him in 2 years.
If I'm the Phoenix Suns, I'm kind of trying to feel out where the chemistry's at. I think Lonzo Ball is worth that paycheck. But if there's not going to be a good chemistry there.
But I don't think that's a problem with Lonzo. I think he's a great personality, and he probably would fit in a lot of locker rooms.
No. I do too. My issue would not be with Lonzo. It would be sort of like wasting the potential of Lonzo, I think. It's the rest of the team. If the rest of the team's chemistry is not together,
Mm.
I mean, why bring in Lonzo and unless he can fix it, which I don't
And
know if
that's the issue with Chicago, in my opinion, because the rest of the team may not approve of Lonzo and his antics or his game. You know, if Zach LaVine still thinks he's the best player and he should get whatever he's doing, you know, if he doesn't allow Lonzo to help take the pressure off of him, but maybe that catalyzes him because Chicago did play pretty well at the end of the year last year when they probably should have been losing more games.
Yeah, I think Chicago's going to be an up and coming team in the next 2 or 3 years. I think that they'll come into their own, not as a contender, not yet, but they've definitely got potential over there.
Okay, so let's mock it out. 1, Zion. 2, Ja. 3, RJ. 4, Culver. 5, Cleveland. Who do Cleveland goes with?
Cleveland.
Let's go DeAndre Hunter from Virginia.
That's what yeah, okay. I was trying to think of his name.
6, we'll go with Garland. And 7, the Bulls take Cam Reddish. Do you take the big man out of Texas? Give up on Wendell Carter? Do you need a point guard? I feel like they need a point guard. Because you give up on Chris Dunn.
I feel like you got to go Cam Reddish, though, because
people
feel
say
like Cam Reddish upside.
They look at Cam Reddish and they see Tracy McGrady.
Yeah, I mean he can shoot the ball.
He's 6'9",
smooth.
6'8".
Yeah, really smooth. I like Cam Reddish a lot. I think he should go. I think he should be projected higher than he is. Like I would not be upset if the Lakers were like, "Yeah, we'll take Cam Reddish."
What about Cleveland? If he goes at
Cleveland
5.
Yeah, I mean,
if he goes at 5 and you're the Bulls, do you take DeAndre Hunter at that point?
See, that's the thing. I think Cam Reddish has more value than DeAndre Hunter. I'm still trying to figure out like where or how DeAndre Hunter got in front of Cam Reddish in this draft order. I understand kind of the point guards and Darius Garland because there's so few guards to choose from in this draft, and there's a lot of teams that are kind of needing that spot filled. So it makes sense that there's guards hopping in front of Cam Reddish. But I don't see like that there's these 3-and-D guys that are popping up in front of Cam Reddish. I think he's got that potential to fill that role and be a much better shooter than a lot of the guys. I think he's a more consistent shooter than Culver. I think he's a flat-out better offensive talent than DeAndre Hunter. Maybe not quite as athletic, but certainly more skilled on the offensive end.
So this is where I think Colby White might come into play. And I think a lot of people roll their eyes when I say Colby White or when he's brought up because, you know, he's not the best prospect. But I'll raise you this question. Are there many things harder than playing point guard in the ACC, especially as a true freshman? Because you have Trey Jones, and he did a pretty good job. He was arguably the best point guard in the country, let alone the ACC. But Colby White was able to stabilize that North Carolina program, especially when Nasir Little, the supposed best player since sliced bread for the Tar Heels, you know, the best recruit since Harrison Barnes, when he kind of flamed out, it was the Colby White show for a lot of the year.
And that's a big role to fill, and you're playing top tier defenses every single night. The ACC is a big time conference, especially last year. So I think you're right. I think Colby White.
I mean, they have Colby White listed at 6'5", 185 on NBA Draft.net. NBA player comp is Gilbert Arenas.
I think, whoa, that's a big one.
He's super quick. He's a pretty good playmaker as well. I mean, maybe you take a chance on him.
I don't think that's crazy. I mean, honestly, if Phoenix took Colby White at 6, I don't think that would be insane either. I think he's the third best point guard without question. And he might actually turn out to be a more immediate impact than Darius Garland. I'm not sure. It's hard to say right now, but I don't think he's a bad option for anybody, even in the top.
Unfortunately, with
6 or
rookie
7.
point guards, I think a lot of it comes down to shooting too. Because the thing with Lillard was he was such a great shooter. He's always been such a great shooter. I mean, now he's kind of taking it to the Steph Curry ridiculous range. But like the thing with I'm blanking the guy from Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox. He struggled his first year because of his shot, his inability to make consistently the outside shot. And I don't know about Kobe White. I don't know if I trust his shot more than like a Darius Garland, who looks like he's a rhythm shooter, step back, catch and shoot. He looks like he's kind of more adept to that. And obviously, nobody's a Trae Young in this class, or even a Luka.
I think Kobe White. Yeah, I think Kobe White could be more of maybe like a DeJounte Murray, like a really effective mid-range kind of player.
And then like a catch and shoot and rhythm kind of guy, kick it out.
Yeah. The NBA season from the draft, it seems like starts pretty quick. But teams do have, let's see, from like 4 months to work with players, which is quite a bit of time, honestly. They get to go through summer league and then through preseason and kind of like working on the skills and things. So I think that's another thing you have to take into account is how teams are able to develop their rookies. Portland has been extraordinary at it in the last few years. I mean, they've been winning summer leagues with young players. And you saw how they brought up Collins so fast. I think they were bringing up, I mean, Anthony Simmons is another one, but they were also bringing up, they traded him for Labissiere, big dude from Purdue.
Caleb Swanigan.
Swanigan, yeah. I think he was going to be. I hope he's still
Swanigan. I know, right?
Yeah, I think they were bringing him along in a really productive way as well.
I mean, even if you want to take it back to Will Barton and C.J. McCollum, I mean Lillard himself too, Wesley Matthews, all these guys have just gone on to do great things. I mean, maybe only Batum is the only guy to leave Portland and not have a better career. Even Travis Outlaw back in the day, he leaves and has a good stop.
That was the thing. Travis Outlaw was with Portland for 7 years, and it wasn't until after he left Portland that his career sort of fell apart. He didn't know how to fit in with another team.
I guess I'm misremembering his Sacramento years. I guess they weren't that good, were they?
No, they were pretty bad. And Travis Outlaw was struggling at the time, like off the floor and on the floor. He had a really tough time. And then he just bounced around the league for a long time until he disappeared. But like, I don't know how well Phoenix has been developing their rookies, which makes me sort of think about whether maybe Kobe White is the best option for them, or Darius Garland, who, like you said, a guy who can maybe adjust to the line a little bit quicker than Kobe White could. Just development-wise, maybe Garland is a better option for them. I think Atlanta has been developing rookies really well lately with their young guys like Taurean
John Collins, Herter. Well, Taurean Prince got traded to the Brooklyn Nets, which I have two more things I want to talk. Yeah, because they traded Allen Crabbe. Brooklyn traded 2 first-round picks to unload Allen Crabbe to the Atlanta Hawks for Taurean Prince, because now Brooklyn has 2 slots for free agents.
I didn't realize that.
They must have gotten an offer for Kyrie. So last thing, I guess, before we close up shop for today, is I wanted to talk about Team USA and some of the top players, Miles, are not going to be here anymore. We're not really looking at a Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, obviously Kobe Bryant, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul. I don't think a lot of those guys are coming back from the last 2 Olympics. So Anthony Davis, James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Kemba Walker, LaMarcus, Harrison Barnes, Bradley Beal, Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, Lillard and McCollum, Brooke Lopez, Chris Middleton, Kevin Love, Jason Tatum, Kyle Kuzma, and Zion Williamson have all been given their Team USA camp invite for the potential of making the FIBA team for the World Cup this summer. So I guess I don't really have a question, but I'm just kind of curious what the state of USA basketball is, especially with the rise of the Canadians and potentially, I mean, I guess who else would be the top team besides Canada? Spain? I guess maybe the Gasols aren't in it really anymore.
Yeah, Spain has kind of been slipping just because they're getting old. Same thing that happened to Team Argentina. We saw like really good showings out of Serbia.
Team Argentina, you mean 2000 gold medalist Team Argentina. Put some respect in their name.
That's correct. Yes. I think we're going to see a full like global change in world championship type of basketball where
Australia.
the US I don't think is going to be as dominant of a force as they've been in the past. And I don't think it's going to be because they don't have the talent. That'll never be the issue. They'll always have the most talent in the world. It's going to be because their priorities are somewhere else. And it almost seems like I think there's going to be a huge coaching change coming up soon as well, where they're not going to have Popovich. They're not going to have Coach K. And like you said, all these guys that have been playing, I mean, it's only going to be probably one more Olympics for LeBron. They're not going to have
if he plays at all. I don't think he plays.
That's the thing. The interest seems to be fading for those guys as they're getting older.
Because who's the best player I named? Anthony Davis, James Harden, Lillard?
Yeah. I mean, those three guys, yeah, for sure. I think DeRozan is going to be part of that conversation. Kyrie.
Kemba, Donovan Mitchell, LaMarcus, Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, Chris Middleton, Kevin Love, Jason Tatum, Kyle Kuzma.
They'll always have the most talent, like I said. But there's also, like, if you look at Team Canada, Tristan Thompson, Kelly Olynyk, Andrew Wiggins, Jamal Murray, Corey Joseph, RJ Barrett.
RJ Barrett, yep. He has international experience.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Ooh.
This is a deep team. Anthony Bennett.
That's a deep team. Anthony Bennett.
Kyle Wilcher. Tyler Ennis.
Really?
Team Canada's kind of
Oregon?
There's a couple names that actually surprised me.
That's awesome. Good for him.
But Team Canada is kind of like they've got two full units of NBA players. And I think that the only reason that they didn't have a good showing at the last Olympics is because they didn't bring most of them. They were really like, I think a lot of them were hurt. I remember Wiggins was hurt, and I think Anthony Bennett was down. But they've also got the kind of connection with Steve Nash, where I think Canada is going to be able to make a run at a lot of gold medals in the next few World Championships and Olympics, which is sort of a problem for Team USA because they used to have an easy ride to qualifications. And Canada is now sort of standing in the way of those qualifications because they need to win the exact same tournaments. And I think it's going to cause somewhat of an issue for Team USA in that they may have to enter a few more tournaments and FIBA recognized events in order to actually qualify for the Olympics. And then there's the issue of ranking and everything else. But I think Australia, they've been coming up. I mean, their leagues and stuff have been coming up, and they've got a lot of really good talent. Canada, I think Nigeria could put together a team. I think Greece. Yeah, I think Greece could also do the same thing. with all the Antetokounmpo brothers.
Oh man, you get 5 on the Kumo brothers out there. I forgot there
I
was
think
just I forget there was just the one. I
I
love
think
that.
that would be really interesting. Yeah. And Greece has had an American on their team for a while. They gave him a um they gave him like a Grecian passport
Mm.
and gave him
Team
sort of
France. I think there's a French prospect coming out of the league this year who's supposed to be pretty good, like a Draymond Green type of role. Who could, if you're looking at Boston at 14 and you're looking at role players, man, I think Boston could really get a nice role player to fit around. Because, dude, if you're Boston and you just decide to hit reset again, I think you're in a really good spot. I mean, I don't want to do the Boston thing. International. Yeah. Totally agree with 100% everything you said. And it's crazy and it's awesome to see the game go so international, just in general.
Yeah. I think that the world, like as a whole, kind of like stepping away from the world championships and Olympics and stuff, as a whole, I think they should start to try at least opening the conversation of kind of working together and creating a one league sort of championship and sort of having the NBA and the Euro League kind of put together almost.
Because I
And that
think you
way,
could have like a farm system that was the European. You know what I mean? Because
yeah, exactly.
maybe if Middle America isn't drawing enough of a crowd, what if there was some G League tournament versus the Euro League championship? We
Yeah,
bring
and
over the Spanish
they've
team.
done exactly. Yeah, they've done little exhibition games like that where they'll have like San Antonio play.
Well, I mean, perfect.
Real Madrid or something like
Exactly.
that.
Perfect example of that is the Oklahoma City Thunder is going to play the New Zealand Breakers this year in the NBL. So LaMelo might get to match up against Russell Westbrook. Excuse me. In the preseason.
And I think I was going to say that. Yeah, I think LaMelo going to the NBL will be a really telling type of season. I hope that happens because it'll be able to see whether he plays how he plays against real professionals. The NBL is a competitive league, and they're not going to let LeVar Ball come in and be a coach. And they're also not going to let LaMelo run around and shoot half-court shots.
But also, LaMelo's not 16, 17 anymore. He's a 18-year-old who's played in the JBA World Tour. He's played in Spire Academy. He's played AAU against Zion Williamson. He's tested, Miles. He's tried and tested.
Yeah. Yeah. The JBA was the biggest sell. That's why I would sign him. He played for the LA Ballers. I hope he goes to the NBL, and I hope that he does line up against Russell Westbrook. I would love to see that match.
That would be awesome. I think there are a couple guys that are really going to transform. I think LaMelo and Trae Young. Just got to keep watching those guys. So let's kind of, I guess, I know I said we're going to end on so many other different things, but I guess let's get a game. Let's get a prediction for the next finals game, just for the fun of it. I don't know. The Raptors, they look real strong, and I guess prediction number one is KD going to play? And if so, we have two different predictions, I guess. So what's your prediction if KD plays?
I think Toronto wins it in 5 if KD returns.
Whoa. So what if he doesn't return?
I think it goes back to Oracle.
Whoa.
That's my prediction.
Miles with the knockout with the left hook.
I don't think Kevin Durant can come back strong enough. He has not been playing. My prediction is that he will not come back. But if he does, I think he's going to disrupt a lot of flow because he was playing and they were, I'm trying to think of their playoff record while he was playing. They won, he got hurt in game 5 against Houston, right? So they went up 3-2.
The Clippers series was really weird and telling because at some point it switched from Warriors basketball regular season to KD trying to show up Patrick Beverley, and it switched back again to Warriors basketball. which kind of, and then you saw like the final version of it, and then all of a sudden he got hurt and it was all over. So it was this
The Warriors
really
went on a roll. They won 6 in a row.
right. I don't know.
I think
So I
losing,
guess
I think losing Durant opened up Draymond Green. That was the biggest difference to me. Was Draymond Green, all of a sudden he was like, okay, Durant's not here, so I've got the freedom to dribble the ball up the floor whenever I want. I can sort of take all of the freedoms that I had before Kevin Durant was here. And he turned into that triple-double machine that we saw before he was around Kevin Durant. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to go away, but I think he loses a lot of freedom when Kevin Durant's on the floor. And if Durant's going to try and play 40 minutes, which he won't, I don't know. I guess I could see it.
I mean, I
I
guess
could see
the only
Durant
thing
coming in and running away.
if he disrupts the flow, I think it's easy for Steve Kerr just to be like, okay, stagger. Everything is staggered. So instead of the 9 to 10 minutes at the end of the second quarter and at the beginning of the third or in the middle of the third when they roll out G League players and one of Curry and Thompson, you can kind of integrate KD into there. You can kind of stop the bleeding offensively at least a little bit in order for the rest of
And that would be my biggest. That's my biggest concern is the Warriors seem lost.
Yeah.
Like they don't really know what to do. And if you're just kind of like, oh, we're going to try this, you're facing elimination.
It won't work. I mean, did you see the Toronto Raptors expression after they won game 4?
Everybody's expression. Yeah. I mean,
it's interesting that they all take after Kawhi. It's just so interesting, right? Like they all look up to him and say, oh, so this is how we should be. Okay. I mean, he's been here before, right? He's finals MVP in San Antonio. He shut down LeBron in the finals 2 times in a row.
And that's the biggest thing I think is his attitude is contagious, but he also knows what it's like to play against Golden State, and he knows what it's like to win a championship. I mean, he was the finals MVP.
For a reason.
I think, yeah, those players are definitely taking a cue from him. And
so does it make it easier for him to leave?
No. I don't think so.
I think it does.
I
think it makes him like a LeBron James Cleveland status where it's like, I got you your championship. Be happy. There will be a time where I come back and I will be immortalized at this, in this place. But for now, I gotta go to LA.
I like the appeal of Toronto. With like Drake being there, they're getting a lot of attention.
Did you see all of those fans stick around after the game? They traveled to Oracle and they showed up.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like the support from Toronto has been fantastic. I think Toronto has tremendous upside for a player like Kawhi because it's not going to be like a big market in the sort of traditional sense, I guess, like in LA or a New York. But Toronto's
is it good for the NBA if Toronto wins?
I absolutely think so.
Breaks up the dynasty potentially.
Yes. I think it sort of like resets all of the dynasties and sort of opens everything up to a point where it's like, okay, Toronto is our NBA champions. This is the team we have to beat.
LeBron is clearly not the best player anymore. This is a different league.
Yeah. I think it's going to be really competitive for the 8 spots in both the East and the West. It's going to come down to injuries similar as it did this year, but also chemistry proved to be one of the most important factors, which I was happy to see. I didn't really consider that.
I mean, I don't know about
Clippers,
you mean like
Clippers were healthy locker room
by
team.
chemistry, do you mean like over the course of a couple of years chemistry, or do you mean like the right vets with the right people at the right time?
Yeah, I'm talking like immediate chemistry right now. Like the Clippers.
Or the Toronto Raptors.
Or the Raptors, yeah, absolutely. I think you can sort of like see teams get exposed. The Blazers were a very together team in the locker room, and OKC was definitely not. And that
I mean,
showed. It was a 5-game series.
Indiana
Quick.
Pacers overachieved. I mean, I guess they'll
Yeah.
get shut down by the Celtics in the playoffs, so that kind of defeats the point.
But they still, I mean, they lost Oladipo, and they still made a really solid playoff run, in my opinion. I think they performed as well as they possibly could have because they ran Boston to 7, right? Or 6.
I thought it was a sweep, right?
Was it really?
I think it was a Boston sweep.
Oh, I overestimated them then.
And then Boston fell apart against Milwaukee. For a short second there, it was clicking for Boston, all cylinders. Okay, so Kawhi gets traded, disgruntled superstar in the last year of his deal. We've already talked about how that kind of follows the Paul George I think on the last pod we did. So I want to ask, who is the next likeliest superstar to be traded to a team in the opposite conference who also happens to be a contender? Is it a Dallas trading for disgruntled superstar X? Is it an Anthony Davis going to a mystery team that is on the fringe of a playoff, like an Indiana or like a Brooklyn or something? Like, who is the next big guy to maybe go somewhere else? If you can even entertain that idea. Is it LeBron?
As far as a trade?
Is it Westbrook if it goes bad? Is it Paul George if it goes bad? I mean, because you can really get creative with this kind of stuff. Especially when the reality doesn't match the narrative. That's really important.
That is important, actually. I think.
Is it Karl Anthony Towns?
Oh, please. He's a B-lister.
Yeah.
I don't think teams want Karl Anthony Towns in the same way that they want Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is going to be an impact player and lead you to a playoffs. Karl Anthony Towns is not.
Yeah, and that's more of like a Kawhi level.
It's not his abilities. He's clearly able to be an NBA All-Star, a first-team All-NBA type of player. He's just a goofball. And he's going to end up like DeAndre Jordan. I think realistically it's going to be Anthony Davis. But see, that's the thing, is that the reality of Anthony Davis is really hard to predict because he might stay in New Orleans. And it's honestly possible that LeBron James leaves.
Or
ends up not with the Lakers. I don't really see that happening simply because his family is sort of like set up and they seem like they're doing well in LA.
Right. You don't move your kid when he starts high school. You just don't. He's gonna go to Sierra Canyon and team up with Zaire Wade. Did you see that?
Yeah. It seems like they've kind of got a plan for them.
Yeah.
And that's it's reflecting on LeBron's career. I don't think LA was the right decision for him as far as his career or his legacy.
What about Blake Griffin? Guides Detroit to the playoffs, goes for a stretch where he's a dominant 23-8 monster, also a playmaker, added a 3-point shot. He's got maybe a couple of years of good, solid basketball in him, and then he can kind of maybe transition into that David West Warriors role at the end of his career. Kevin Love, is he enough to be a small ball 5? And if you don't have LeBron James clogging the center anymore, maybe you need if you're Portland.
Kevin Love still has serious value in the league. And I think the question mark over him would be his health. It's whether he could stay healthy for an 82-game season, even if he didn't play all 82 games, but if he could play 65 and be healthy for the playoffs.
We need to have graphics on this show. And one of my graphics is going to be a little crystal ball that shows up right here. And I'm just going to start going like this. And I'm going to look into it. And it's going to tell me that I think the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't want Kevin Love to play all 82 games. I'm just going to say that's a hunch. I think he's going to be fine. And for the kind of game that he plays, he's kind of a slow, methodical player. outlets the ball, just tries and get back in transition. Really changed his body to get back and to kind of be leaner than he's ever been before. And he shoots it like nobody's business at 6'10".
I definitely love his motor and his game style. And I've seen that Portland is in sort of the talks of picking up Kevin Love. And I love that.
Well, at least at one time they were, right?
I saw something recently that put them back into the running for him. I don't know how real it was, if it was just somebody kind of like, this is what Portland should do.
See, I think maybe if like you're the Clippers and you get Kawhi, but you don't get anybody else, Kevin Love would probably be a good fit. You can give up some young players.
I think the Clippers need to be really careful with what they have. And they should not just accept any superstar that's going to walk in.
Interesting.
I think Kawhi Leonard is the ultimate for them. And if they can get Danny Green to follow him, I think those two guys fit in perfect.
What's interesting is that you only really need 8 players, right, for your playoff run.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you add 1 in free agency, that's really only 7 that you need to worry about, right?
Yes.
Like through the draft and through trades and through midseason free agency hookups, draft, G League call-ups, rookies you develop.
And what happens with teams that like develop a sort of that dynasty potential is players are willing to come in and sign for less than they're worth. DeMarcus Cousins did it. He's playing for $4 million.
A lot of people on those Cleveland Cavalier teams, Miami Heat teams, Golden State Warrior teams did. Even San Antonio with Boris Diaw and all those guys.
Yeah. And I think the top tier guys in San Antonio actually took pay cuts because they wanted to be able to pay those lower end guys.
I think, and maybe Kevin Love is a good fit in Atlanta as like a mentor role, as kind of like an Andre Iguodala, still at the tail end of his prime, can help out a team, and also he's a really good fit next to John Collins, Trae Young, Kevin Huerter.
I think Kevin Love is actually a really good fit
because you also have to think of a team that has no cap commitments too, right? He signed a huge extension, $130 million extension.
And that's big, actually. Something
that limits his trade value, but he's still valuable nonetheless. So you have to get one of those like I always use the rookie quarterback in the NFL comparison, where you gotta, you have Jared Goff you have Carson Wentz under the rookie scale, so you have Russell Wilson under the rookie contract, so you really only have a finite window of time in order to get those really high capped players. Zion is another example. If you think you can win with him now, you need to trade for some high capped players. Maybe you can get some value, get a flip up for a couple first round picks, like the Hawks did, taking on Allen Crabbe's salary and getting more picks for the future. Just crazy, man.
Yeah, I'm pumped about the league this summer. It seems like the last 3, they just keep on getting better. Like the off season grows and grows and grows. And I'm kind of waiting for it to settle down to a point where the NBA is like a little bit more stable than it is. But it's really exciting right now. Where we've got so many superstars that are up in the air, where it's wondering where Durant's going to land, Irving, Kemba, and then a lot of players kind of that mid-level who can make a huge difference. And then also that disgruntled kind of MVP status of players, where Kawhi is going to be up in the air.
We're not
sure if he's disgruntled. Yeah, Lopez.
I'm just kidding.
I've heard about talks of Antetokounmpo and sort of like people making plays for him in the next 2 years, year or two, whenever his free agency comes up.
Like
is it 2020?
It's like 2023 or 2022 or something like that.
Is it that far?
It's like a 2021. It's a couple of years out. It's like where it behooves you to try and make pieces. And he said all the right things, but look at LaMarcus. I'll never trust a player again.
That's the thing. This is the whole culture of the NBA and the
social
the
media.
trust, the trust between player and teams, general managers and things, has definitely deteriorated. And there's very few players in this league that are even. I mean, there's like few players that are even able to pick up the exceptional max contract, which Klay Thompson would have been one because he's been with the Warriors for 8 years, I think. Kemba's one because he's with Charlotte for 8. He was drafted in 2011, I think. So this is his 8th year, making him eligible for that. Plus, he got a third team All NBA. That makes him eligible for that exception. And then I think there's LeBron and Damian. And those are the only guys in the league that are even eligible for that.
On all small markets, coincidentally, which is what the NBA was trying to do with this rule, was trying to keep small market players in their small market franchises. So one thing, an interesting like kind of thing to keep in mind is the narrative surrounding these teams and the free agency surround. You know what I mean? And I think if you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, that's a really good tale of what the national narrative will be for these guys, especially in small markets. KD, Harden, and Westbrook all arguably went through the same narrative. MVP, great story, leads his team to the playoffs, super young team, talented GM, great coach. Sky's the limit. Early exit in the playoffs, they get exposed because what have you, reason X, reason Y. They run it back for another year without the same results. KD realizes that he can't win where he's at and he leaves. Russell Westbrook accepts the fact that he can't win where he's at, takes the money, and tries to recruit. James Harden, say what you want, but he wanted to have his own team. He wanted to be traded. He may not have asked for it, but he probably wanted his own way. And then once he got it, he also went through this kind of MVP. And now look at it. Now look at the narrative surrounding him. It's blow up the Houston Rockets. Let's not extend the coach and let's ruin all the camaraderie that we've built. And so it's interesting for Giannis because, yes, he's in the middle of that peak MVP storyline, Phoenix rising from the ashes, if you will. And so now I guess it's just whether or not he's going to fulfill the same mold. And if he's going to really take the next LeBron-like step, be one of the top players in the league, or takes a KD, a Harden approach, gets his own team.
And those
it's
guys,
just interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, even Paul George in Indiana right now. What if he was on Indiana?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. The thing about OKC is they've been taking early exits from the playoffs since 2013.
After that final season.
Yeah. They have not been back to the NBA Finals since then. So how long can you sort of like put up with that kind of disappointment? And this
was the first year of that, I guess. Or would next year be the first year of that? I mean, honestly, with the way social media is now, it kind of feels like the Bucks are old news. This is the first season they've been good.
I think that has to do with like small market. To be honest, like I don't think the league wants Milwaukee to be good. I think it would be way worse for the NBA to have a championship in Milwaukee than it would be for Toronto.
Oh,
or Boston.
Interesting. Boston?
I mean, like Boston. I put Boston up there with
Toronto.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But how long do you keep Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City?
Well, let's just stay on Milwaukee, because from a team building point too, it's like you're committed to Middleton. Probably you're going to re-sign him for a max. You're committed to Bledsoe. You're committed to Brogdon. You might not be able to keep Brook Lopez, so you might get a little worse there. From a developmental standpoint, DJ Wilson, is he really the guy that you think you're going to hang your hat on and he's going to be like a Taj Gibson? I mean, that's kind of the best case scenario for him. I don't think he's going to get there.
So I think they need to learn from Oklahoma City. And they either need
How
to
so?
keep this group together with what they've got, all of their potential stars, keep developing Antetokounmpo in perfecting his skills, using his drive. Like, they cannot let him lose that killer mentality that he's got right now. That's what's making him the most valuable player in the league, or at least putting him in that conversation. They
Because
need
it's
to
that
develop.
night after night aggressive. I'm the
Yeah,
best matchup on the floor. I'm a mismatch every single time. And if I just try hard, multiply that, and I scale it, chances are I'll come out on top most possessions.
yeah. And if he can put his skills behind that and get to a point where he doesn't just have to try to run over people or take 12 steps without taking a dribble to get to the rim, then he can really start to take over a game and realistically put his team in an NBA championship type of situation. They were there, like they were at that line this year, and I don't think it's crazy to see them coming back and making another run, an even better run next year. So I think patience is kind of the game for Milwaukee right now at this point.
I mean, it's his first
But
time in the playoffs, right? And he's
right,
wondering,
I
he's
mean,
looking out here wide-eyed in a conference
well,
final.
second time
Oh, yeah. I guess.
because he really didn't do well his first round.
So then let me
Like
ask you this:
he
who has
disappeared.
a better season after an overachieving year, arguably, Milwaukee or Denver?
Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee is set up to reappear in the Eastern Conference Finals,
Really?
where Denver, I don't see that. I think Boston's going to blow up. It depends on how they rebuild, but they'll be in a rebuild season nonetheless.
But I mean, Denver, you expect Gary Harris to, progress a little bit more. You expect Jamal Murray to
That's actually
progress a little bit
true.
more. You expect
That was a
Jokic.
quick answer. I didn't
Jokic
think
was
about.
first team All NBA, and you have Will Barton, and
That's
you
true.
might have that rookie coming back, Michael Porter Jr.
That's right. I answered that quick. I didn't think about Denver too much.
Well, I mean,
I think in the next couple of years, Denver can actually have a realistic shot at making like a Western Conference Finals.
they almost
I
did.
mean,
They were
they
Game
had.
7 away from that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And they were able to.
That's
They
a good
faced a
question.
battle-tested San Antonio.
So who comes back in your opinion?
Oh, I see. I don't know.
Milwaukee or
Probably.
Denver?
Gosh, that's. I mean, can my answer say Giannis's jump shot? Because fuck, if he shoots 40% from three, I don't understand what you can do at that point. Because the whole game changes. But if if he takes another half baby step, and Jokic just does the same thing, it's hard to not say that these guys can't do it for 82 games. Because a lot of it's like night after night after night after night after night, you have to do it. And especially when you're young, you can absorb those kinds of punishments.
And
So,
Denver's young.
and Milwaukee has a bigger spotlight than Denver.
Yes, at this point they do. Yeah, absolutely. Denver can fly under the radar being in the Western Conference and also not really having an attractive star. Like Jokic is not a good story, to be honest. Like not like Antetokounmpo is, at least.
Right. Although they're both, yeah, because when you say top players in the league, Jokic isn't one of the top 10 names you think of, although he was a first teamer. First team.
Yeah, he's just not that fun.
And he's not better than Anthony Davis, so I'll start there.
Yeah, he's kind of in a unique situation.
He's not the best player at his position, whereas, depending on what you define Antetokounmpo as, he could be if you think he's the best power forward.
Yeah, I think his potential is way higher. But his court vision will never be what Jokic is.
See, if I'm Dallas, I'm crunching the numbers. And I'm thinking I'm trading for guys with contracts that end that specific summer. Because if I can get the best international players in the league in Kristaps, Luka, and Giannis, not only is that a championship level team, but that's a marketer's, which is, obviously Mark Cuban, his marketing genius. You can
Yeah,
just
I mean,
ride out that Dirk Nowitzki international mold, just double down on it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of how San Antonio formed their
Yep.
dynasties. Their dynasty, singular, I guess.
Long dynasty.
Yeah. I mean,
1999 to 2019.
they've still got DeJounte Murray. And think about if Kawhi didn't leave. It's sad to think about.
What if Aldridge wants out?
San Antonio's got an interesting dilemma because I think Aldridge is kind of starting to think about his future and where he's going to end his career. It seems like he kind of wants Portland again,
Mm-hmm.
which makes
I
sense.
kind of like it. I kind of like the idea of having a bench player who can stretch the floor.
I think chemistry-wise, he'd fit in, obviously. He's been there. He knows
You
Lillard.
just have to check his ego at the door. But I think that worked itself out in San Antonio.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think that's ever been a problem for Aldridge. I don't think he wanted to be the man.
I read stories that he needed to be catered in baby too.
Is that right? A little prima donna?
A little preemie.
Well, I mean, I think he's grown a lot in San Antonio.
Grown old.
If nothing, yeah. If nothing else, I think that guys coming from San Antonio are really well equipped for deep playoff run type of teams.
Yeah.
Being under Popovich. But they've also got DeJounte Murray still, who's a first-team All-NBA defensive player, if he can stay healthy. And he's also like a tremendous mid-range point guard that was taking after Tony Parker. So if they can bring back DeRozan, who's, again, that mid-range guy, they can bring back Aldridge, they can bring back, let's say, Rudy Gay, or even upgrade from Rudy Gay, I think that needs to happen.
What about the rookie from Miami, Lonnie Walker?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Lonnie Walker.
He had a
San
couple.
Antonio loves him.
He had a couple of glimpses, right?
Yeah.
I mean, am I crazy?
And the Spurs fans love Lonnie Walker.
That two guard.
Really hoping that he does well. Yeah. Yeah, I think the Spurs still have a future, and I think they signed. I think Popovich is there for another 3 years, right?
Right. I think they just extended him.
So if I'm Aldridge, I'm not quite giving up on the Spurs yet.
No. Especially after
mean,
you see that Derek White can just appear out of nowhere and have great games.
And Bertans has. He's so good. I love Bertans.
I mean,
that guy was shooting like 45% from 3-point range this year.
But Podol, if you're looking at that Kawhi trade, you could have got something better than Pirtle.
Oh, you could have got way better. Anything.
OG.
Yeah. Those are the two names I thought of immediately. Yeah.
Even Van Vliet at this point. I mean, seriously.
Oh, man, yeah. Van Fleet would have been really,
he would have been a great
especially
Spur.
Now. Yeah. Backing up Patty Mills. Especially with with Murray going down. I'm kind of excited for the Spurs' future just because there's not a lot expected of them, but I also think that they'll kind of live up to it. If they can bring back Bellinelli, kind of the three-point shooters that they have, if they can add one more great shooter like a Fred VanVleet, for instance, not necessarily Fred VanVleet, but if they can add another shooter, I think that would add tremendous value to them because they've already got the mid-range game with DeRozan and Lowry, Aldridge, and then bringing in DeJounte Murray, I think he can really add to that mid-range game and also the pick-and-roll game, which seems to be lacking a little bit in San Antonio. I think DeJounte Murray can be a phenomenal pick-and-roll player. I think Lonnie Walker can as well.
I know. I really like Lonnie Walker.
I love DeJounte Murray. I think he was phenomenal, and he's not scared of anybody. He matched up against LeBron James. He's not afraid to guard him. I think if he can stay healthy, we're going to see him turn into an all-star type of player.
So I think we should maybe end this like on a non-basketball related topic, just like a random thing.
Okay.
For people who don't know, I guess like Miles and I have known each other for the last 5-6 years. We went to college together and we ran together. Did you catch any of the NCAA track by chance? This is all random and
Uh,
unscripted.
I
I
really
guess
didn't.
Texas Tech won. I guess this segment will be unspeculated track talk. Uninformed.
Texas Tech winning a championship doesn't surprise me, actually.
Those Lubbock guys, they know how to do it, I guess.
When I was
Miles,
a junior,
what was your favorite race?
my favorite race,
What was your best race
my
at
best race, my
at
best race was,
OIT? For people who don't know, I guess we went to Oregon Tech in Klamath Falls. We ran track. Miles was faster than me at pretty much everything except one cross country season. I think I was better the first
oh
year.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Um,
He got significantly slower when he came to OIT comparatively when he was before.
yeah, a lot slower. I loved the 800. I really did, but I liked the mile more just because
Really?
it was a strategic race and I liked that about it.
Okay, maybe not race, but like, what was your favorite workout that we did? Because I think there were some crazy ass ones.
Mm,
How about UCLA's or 500s?
I hated 500s.
And I hated UCLA's. So for UCLA, what we would do is if you can picture a track, I guess, because my grandma painted this, right? It's a track. It's OIT track, right? So what we would do is, you know how like lane 8 is like a little bit longer if you think about the perimeter of the outside track. It's a little bit longer than the inside track. So there's about like an 8 meters difference between like this all the way around on the inside and the outside all the way around. And the outside all the way around. So what we would do is we would start here, we would run a full lap, and then we would get this much to walk, because all the way up to this point would be 400 meters. So you would literally run a lap at legit race pace. You can't hold this for long. And you would get like 10 seconds in between each lap. And it was just, there were whistles involved. And if you went on the whistle, it was degrading.
My favorite track workouts were from my junior college. Like as far as just regular track workouts go, because it was legitimately a race. That's the way my coach ran it. And that's the thing I didn't like about Oregon Tech workouts was we were all like trying to stay in a group, it seemed like.
Mm.
And the competition level wasn't really there. But like the camaraderie, it was fun. Like
Right.
I loved running at Oregon Tech because the guys there were awesome. And it was
The best friends we'll ever make in our lives.
Right, yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun. But as far as like getting better at track, like we were pitted against each other in junior college.
Mm.
And I don't think it like hurt anything as far as like our friendships and things. Sometimes it hurt somebody's ego maybe, but it was a race. Like we spiked up and every single workout that we did was race paced. How it hurt us was none of us ever really performed that well in like a national championship type of setting, but we always qualified. So of the guys left on our junior college team, we had 25 of 25 guys qualify for nationals. And we did workouts. So we did a 600 meter workout. So we'd run 600 meters at race pace for our 800 group.
Jeez.
And we'd usually come around 400 meters in like 51, 52.
No.
And then finish around like a 600, around like 125.
I don't think I had enough speed at Oregon Tech to run a 51 flat.
I don't think I did either.
But in high school, I'm pretty sure I did multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, like, we would do 3 of those, but I also got maximum amount of rest, as much rest as I wanted. So I would literally walk like 2 laps around the track in lane 9. It took forever. I would walk so slow, but then you get ready and then you blast another one. Race pace. And you'll like be bumping teammates and stuff. Like you're not working as a team. You're
right.
trying to beat the guy next to you.
Well, and I think, at Oregon Tech, we're trying to get jobs more than we're trying to be better at track. And for me, I guess the beer and the weed and the sugar and the no sleep, that probably didn't help.
Yeah. It's tough, honestly, to run in college. It really is.
It really is. But some of the best times we'll ever have.
Oh, yeah. It's such a different atmosphere, too, being like at the university, living like on campus or at least around campus versus like where I was in junior college where I was living at home and
Right.
So much different. But yeah, I actually raced against Texas A&M when I was here. We used to go to the Sun Devil Classic, and we'd run against like all the college guys and stuff. So Arizona State and Texas A&M, Florida State was there one year. Yeah, it was cool. What was your point to the track thing? I don't remember the original question.
I don't know. I think I was just wanted to get a random topic that wasn't basketball related.
Okay.
I think, did you watch the NCAAs? But you didn't, so it's fine. No. I didn't watch it either. I just saw that Texas Tech won, and it wasn't in Eugene, which is, where my parents live, so I wasn't interested in that regard. Saw an Oregon guy ran, and I think he got like 3rd in the 100, and he placed well. He got like 2nd in the 200, so that's good. I always like to catch up who are good on the Ducks end. That's
actually interesting. The Ducks are kind of
sprinters now, right? Because when Robert Johnson took over for Vin Lanana, Robert Johnson's more of a sprinter jumper focus rather than like a distance dominance guy. And for Oregon, they're known for distance, but the best distance runners coming out of Oregon are on the female side, not on the men's side. That's for sure.
Yeah. Raven something, right?
Raven Rogers.
That's
she hasn't been there for a while. I think she opened up a 201 a couple months ago. She's like my track woman crush. I think she's just professional. Anyways, Miles, I think that's over 2 hours for today.
That's a long one, yeah.
It's a long one. I had fun.
I did too, man. I think it was good.
I think it's good too. I think we should do this again soon.
Yep.
All right.
We'll see what happens in Game 5.
Think of our next unrelated basketball rant for next time.
Okay, I like it.
All right. Right here. Till next time.
See ya.